Hi, my name is Per. Welcome to this channel where we're going to talk about how to train your AI. What does it mean to train your AI, you could ask, and why should you do this? The thing is, you train your AI so it can perform tasks and solve problems for you. And in that way, if you compare AI to IT, AI is very different. Because when you work with IT, then you would specify some rules, and then you would create some code, and that would solve your problem. And that's very fine. That's how we have been doing things for the last maybe 30, 40 years when it comes to having technology solve your problems. AI is very different. AI looks for patterns in behavior, and based upon this, it's possible for AI to recognize what it's doing and making decisions upon what it sees. I know this sounds a bit abstract, so let's start with an example that I hope everybody can understand. If you look at this line here, you can see a number of threes. And we are humans, and we can see that none of them looks very nice, but all of them represent the number 3. But if you ask a person why is what you're seeing number 3, we can't really articulate and explain, not unless we are pushed. Maybe of course we can and say, okay, yes, it's 3 because of the shape and so on. But we know by intuition that what we're looking at right here is the number 3. And that's what you want to achieve on a conceptual level with AI as well. You want to train AI to be able to do some of the tasks that we can do as human without doing what you do with IT, where you specify with rules. With AI, you will specify it with a goal. So in our example here, the goal would be to be able to recognize something on a screen and then determine whether or not this is the number 3 or not. That's our goal with AI in this example. And this example here with number 3, of course, is a very simple task that we can ask AI to do. But basically, all AI setups works the same way. It's just a matter of handling complexity. Of course, it's much more complex to ask AI to drive a car than to recognize number 3. But the basic principles of what a self-driving car using AI would do and what we are talking about here is actually the same. So what you want to do is you want to train your AI so that it can recognize something on a screen that is a 3 or determine that it is not a number 3. So the way you would do that is you would train your AI. And to train your AI, you need some data points because, as I mentioned earlier, AI is looking for patterns in behavior. Or actually here it's not behavior, so it's looking for patterns in what it's seeing. So AI needs to have as many data points as possible, and then it would look at those data points and see, okay, these are sort of the same, and they represent something that happens when I'm looking at a number 3, and the rest here is not really representing number 3, those data points. So you need a lot of data in order for AI to work, so it can look for patterns, because that's what it's doing. You can think of it like a calibration task to see if there is patterns that can determine whether something on a screen is a number 3 or not. And of course we know that there is, so it's possible to train the AI to find number 3. And that's basically, patterns is the most important thing when you work with AI. It's not the quality of the AI, because either there is patterns that can determine whether you can solve the goal or not, and if there's no patterns, then you can't really have AI working for you. Luckily, you can find patterns in many things, so that's good. So that's what it's illustrating here on the tasks. So what we would do training the AI, getting back to that, then in the beginning you wouldn't say AI is dumb, but AI doesn't have any knowledge. So in our case here, we are creating an AI application that can spot a number 3. So we need to train the AI, and training the AI means that we feed the AI with information, and then we would tell the AI, this is number 3 and this is not number 3. And based upon this, AI would start creating a picture of the patterns that I mentioned before. It would say, sort of collecting the dots, okay, number 3, what all the cases where number 3 is number 3, what do they have in common? So it would start building a picture within these patterns, the dots that I explained before, that would determine whether the outcome of what it is seeing is number 3 or something else. So you start training your AI, and then you would go to the next step, and then you would show the AI algorithm some numbers, and then you would ask the AI algorithm, is this 3 or not? And then it would either give you an answer, and then you can see how close have we come. Actually, what you're talking about here is sort of a calibration task. So in the beginning, maybe the AI is only 40% accurate. So you have to figure out, okay, 40% accuracy, that's maybe not enough. So do we need more data so that the AI can determine more precisely? Is that the problem, or is it just the problem that we haven't shown AI enough use cases? And maybe it's a bit of both. So you would do a bit more, feed in some more data, and give your AI more use cases. And then eventually you would see that the success rate would become even higher, and then at some point your AI would be able to detect, maybe by 80% or 90% accuracy, or maybe 95% accuracy, that what it is seeing is a number 3. And then you might also have heard about deep learning. Deep learning is sort of the next level of AI, and the difference between what I'm explaining here and deep learning is that in deep learning the learning continues, meaning that as the AI is working for you, it would continue the learning process and become more and more precise in what it's doing, and of course that's pretty smart. But basically what you have done here is that you have created a solution that can determine whether you are looking at something that is a 3 or not. And the big difference between AI and IT is that you have done so without specifying any business requirements or rules. All you have done is feed your AI application with data, and you have taught them the right or wrong scenarios. And that's actually how you train your AI. And it means that when you're done, you wouldn't be able to explain or know, looking into the code or something, why your AI algorithm actually works, because the patterns that determine whether or not it sees a 3 or not is not very clear for us to see as persons. So you would only have a case where you know that, okay, this AI algorithm, it works. It can detect when it sees something at a screen with some degree of accuracy, maybe 99%, that what it is looking at right now is the number 3 and not something else. So that's how you would train your AI on a very high level conceptual basis. I hope it makes sense to you. If you're interested in more about AI and how it works, and especially how AI can transform your business, then stick to this channel or go into our website. You can find the link below. Also, this presentation or this video has been converted into a presentation that you can download on our website as a PDF file or a PowerPoint if you want to. So you sort of have the pictures that I've shown you also if you need them. So I hope it makes sense to you, and thank you for watching.